Alrighty, so I'm here with four of my bestest girlfriends, and in our last video we all introduced Karen and Jaylene and Krista and Valerie, and we were talking about why we've been coming to Girls Weekend for 13 or 14 years, and why we each do it personally, even though we have very busy careers, we travel a lot, we've birthed 1,000 children, brought in all kinds of, have multiple spouses over the time that we've had to buy into the program. Only one at a time, though. Usually. So,
this just got crazy.
Yeah, we just went downhill really fast. So, the last video is why we come, and this one I wanted us to talk about how we come here, and like what are the tips, the strategies, and the advice you give to other women to be able to pull off a weekend like this. Like, what do you do with your kids to talk about it ahead of time, to actually say goodbye, to come back home and talk about it with our spouses, with the people we're dating, with our careers, with our budgeting, like think of all the excuses that we have had and that everybody watching has when we think about why we can't do a girls' weekend. And it's kind of funny because in 365 days a year, like 3 days doesn't feel like that much actually, but it does feel like it does take a lot to get here. And it is a choice and a commitment. And so let's just bounce around and see what advice, strategies, and tips we would have from our 13 or 14 years of experience in doing this that would help make it easier, that we've learned from.
Planning ahead.
Okay.
So the fact that we set a date a year in advance, I'm able to then let my work know. My husband, we can plan his work schedule around so that he can be helpful with the kids when I'm gone. So for me, planning in advance really helps.
Yeah. Well, and that's cool because what we're doing is prioritizing it. We're not saying let me put everything else in my calendar and then see what weekend I have available. So I think you guys, some of you have missed kids' concerts, or like there was a year where like you've missed things that ended up getting scheduled. This was like the rock, like when you think about the metaphor of like we put in the calendar and plan around it for the most part.
And I think we've thought, and I think we've almost started to do, but have one set weekend,
like the first weekend of March.
If you knew the 4th of July was your girlfriend's weekend, then it would become even easier as you plan forward, because you could, you don't change.
Yeah. We started with, you basically have a whole year, and then it was kind of like for my husband to watch my kids, it has to be between October and March, right? And so then we're like, okay, and then October is and then we all just kind of, and then we've all been kind of like putting our things and saying, okay, so this, and it has landed in February or March more often than not, and you're right, we are kind of landing, I think our default now, at least it's cool, we have a default, like the first weekend of March, does that work in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, and then kind of move in.
Yeah. I think the other thing is valuing the group more than your personal needs sometimes, because I think it's really easy to feel like I'm always the one who has to give in on this weekend isn't the best for me, or it's my child's performance, or it's my husband's birthday, or it's my
we have a lot of birthdays around this time of year.
If you value the group more, then you can say, I could make it this weekend, and it's always worth it. But I think it would be really easy for a group to start to feel like, I'm always the one that has to give in.
But I think that something comes with that, and that is that because I know you guys value my family life, because you want me to be my best, because you're gracious to me, I feel like I can extend that to the group as a whole, so that when there's a bit of a pushback, whether it's like, can you please make sure that you leave at a specific time out of the airport and not have us waiting for 3 hours because you had to get back sooner. Those conversations can happen because if you understand my intention wasn't to hurt you, and I understand your intention is so that we're all, honoring each other's family life, then that happens. I think that happens. But I bet in a group where everyone's like kind of just looking out for themselves, and they don't feel that bondedness yet, that kind of is harder. Yeah, so hopefully.
No, that raises a good point though. Logistically, we not only say this is the weekend, but we also say, okay, so we kind of connect a little bit before, like, here's some flight options, and we kind of look to say, is there a flight that if you leave it, we can all land around a similar time, And so that sometimes means that for one of you, it's a more expensive flight than a different flight, or that for some of you, you're not getting home in time. But once somebody kind of buys a ticket, we're like, okay, we're all trying to get in Thursday at 1, and we're all not leaving before 11 on Sunday.
Work around that.
And there's been a lot of conflict. I mean, it's kind of crazy because you think of those things not mattering that much, but a lot of our conflict has come from like having to do multiple airplane or airport trips, which affects the time together, or we're not feeling valued in the meaning we attach to it.
People getting you to the airport at the time that you feel comfortable.
Right.
2 hours ahead.
At least.
And that's actually something to consider as well, because there are.
So you can fly out later because you'll know that you'll.
I was just going to say that there are people in our group who do want to be there 2 hours ahead of time, and there are people who, if they're there 2 hours ahead of time after a weekend filled with such energy, it's very tough on me to have 2 hours of alone time. Whereas I understand that you guys love that time to decompress. Some of us don't. It's actually depressing. So then I have to go home depressed to my family, not cool. So I think it's important to express those concerns. So if you need to be there 2 hours in advance, then my flight needs to leave 5 minutes before 2 hours in advance, type of thing.
Or another very good point is that where you guys are all going to, based on how long and how much it's going to cost to fly in, that's a significant issue for all of us because where we choose, sometimes it has to be, we keep changing it so that we have opportunities. You want to explain that one?
Well, I was just going to say, it's interesting because you actually thought you had a place that we could have done in Miami this year, but all of us collectively kind of said, we would rather have shorter flight times and spend more time together and not be away from our family. So we have tended to stay mostly West Coast because 4 of us are West Coast. So, but
we do round robin.
Exactly. Yeah, so it is nice. And I think that's been one of the, and we'll talk about that when we talk about group logistics. Let's say that because there's a lot there. But when individually, what are you doing when your kid is crying and saying, I don't want you to go? Like, how are you handling the children what's helping to prepare them for this? What do you?
It's my husband that's crying.
Mine too. My husband will never watch this, so it's all good. No, my husband's like, are you really gonna leave me? And he loves you guys. But I know it, and I think a lot of us get that. He does. He wants me home. Yeah.
Well, I know that this time my oldest daughter did express more concern than usual, and my husband just said, your mommy needs her girlfriend time. And I just thought that was beautiful. I didn't prompt him to say that. I didn't ask him. I didn't pay him. I didn't, and it's just he understands
He's drank
as
the
well.
Kool-Aid.
He's drunk the Kool-Aid. And it was nice that my daughter saw United Front. She didn't see someone who's trying to escape her family life for a moment of, just a serene getaway. Yeah. It's that this is medicinal almost.
Yeah. And I love, John has often treated that, I think many of your spouses, as an opportunity to have special quality time with the kids. This is turning into other rituals and traditions where he's taking Annie to Disneyland or something.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's been easier too as the kids have gotten older to keep explaining and having the conversation. And as they get older, they're understanding more and more the importance of it. But just having the dialogue, I think, from the beginning is that they've kind of been born into this, but then keep the conversation going and telling her. And as she's gotten older, my daughter, then she understands the medicinal, this is what fills me up, and I want you to find the areas in your life that are going to fill you up so you can be the best person that you can be.
And I think supporting the areas in our spouse's life too. I mean, if it were one-sided and I didn't ever support him going on a motorcycle trip, then that, I think we value for ourselves and for each other that
and this isn't a prison. I mean, there's multiple times when one of us are on Facebook or FaceTime, right? On FaceTime, that's a good point. Hey, honey, how are you doing?
I do have a gun, but all of their heads, they have to be here and say
well, no Wi-Fi. I don't know how this is even getting out. No, but we do. We have an opportunity to check in with our families and make that connection. And then I just know for me, one of the things, and it was about communication with my husband, just making sure that I know what he needs before I leave and when I get back. And we kind of figured out, because I traveled so much previously in my professional life, that it's important to him leading up, and then when I get back, that I'm appreciative of all that he had to do, because you know, he's filling in all those gaps right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of whenever I lead retreats, it's one of the same things I say to attendees. But when you go home, you've had this high, you've gotten filled up. Like the most important thing you can do is go home and like give them, like love on them and express. Like it's so easy to want to come home and just be like, and I think that there's a space and time for that. But I think
You're coming in like this,
yeah, so
and
to
they're
come
depleted.
To come in with the awareness of like, wow, thank you, and not focusing on the house that's not medically, like coming in and just being like, thank you, like thank you, thank you, and like then letting them see what it did for you, but like really seeing them too and stuff like that.
I think for me, also giving my husband the freedom to parent the way he wants to.
While you're gone.
So like my daughters, I am 99% sure missed a function this weekend, and
they did not wear tights last year. When you explicitly told them.
Explicitly told them they needed to wear tights with those dresses, and I have to let that go because he needs to be able to parent the way he needs to, and but also setting that up beforehand. Like, you know, these are the expectations. These are the things that, you know, a birthday party on Sunday, and this and this. I've arranged it so that you can drop them off. Someone will take them home. But knowing that if he's not going to go to the birthday party, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah,
I gotta let it go.
Yeah, your kids, as long as your kids are alive when you get home, and
But you hit on something interesting, talking about John and his relationship with the kids. Sometimes having me out of the picture helps just my kids and them grow, period. Do you know what I mean? I think oftentimes we mistake that we have to be there for every second of every day.
it's a bond that they get.
Of course. So actually by me going away, they're having growth of their own.
Yeah.
And we don't label it as that.
Yeah.
It's just this guilt of, you know, we're expected to be there 24/7, and sometimes that's where the growth happens, is when we're not there.
That almost sounds like an argument for twice a year we do this.
Well, and that is funny because the guys at some point, 10 years in, 11 years in, we're just kind of like, we ended up, and that's a whole nother video, but we ended up doing a whole second trip to bring the guys in and do couples, which was amazing. And now how many of our husbands, before we came here this time, were like, are you guys going to talk about another one with the guys? So
they bonded over baseball and other things.
But yeah, I do think that's a really beautiful thing, is to encourage them to have their own traditions. Like, Mom's gone! Like, this is pizza night! And like, whatever, you know? And just,
ice cream for breakfast,
exactly,
whatever.
Yeah,
That's
anything
gonna
else?
make me want to stay home.
I know.
We
We do what we want here too.
Is there anything else you can think of, like a tip or strategy or advice for work, for, I mean, I have one girlfriend who told me that she used to always tell her kids that she was going on a work thing because that felt more justified to her. But when we were talking, she's like, it's actually really important to come home and then actually talk about what you experienced. Like, to have your kids growing up, not just being like, Mom left and then she came back and she pretended it didn't happen and was just all focused on them, but to actually be like, I loved my time, and to not feel guilty loving the time away, like, and actually modeling that, I think is so powerful. What y'all do, where your kids are growing up wanting to come. I mean, I think that's the best gift you can give. But yeah, anything else that jumps into your minds? You brilliant genius women.
With lots of IQ.
That's right. Even as a single mom, you came. I mean, it's really amazing. And we're talking about spouses, and I recognize not everybody has a spouse, and you've all done some pretty creative things to get child care, and that's probably one of the hardest things. Isn't it? Yeah. All right, it's a wrap.
Okay.